My second thing I think would be the community, the ability to kind of just, this is sort of, so I'm a military child, so this is also sort of like a military child thing, but the ability to be able to grow where I'm planted, like to be put with a group of people and form relationships and bonds with those people that I feel that I can rely on them, because obviously, like, being on a wrestling team, you make friends and you have a community, and like those people are there for you.
Hey, I hope you're having a great day, NWA. We are in for a treat as we have one of our youth leaders, Brooke Arbic, had a interview with Miss Sally Roberts of Wrestle Like a Girl, a huge name in women's wrestling, both in the pioneering, trailblazing early years, as well as the explosion that we are in now. Brooke managed an amazing interview. We were super excited to get to it. Make sure you get your little one to the youth class so they can get instruction from Miss Brooke Arbic. She is one of the best that we have in our program, and she is amazing with these little kids. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get to Brooke.
Okay, so my first question was, I wanted to ask you, I did some research about like how you gotten into wrestling, and I saw in a previous interview that you did that you didn't win a match your first year, and I wanted to know like how that affected you and like what it was in wrestling that made you want to stay with it after that.
I think that for the sport of wrestling, it's one of two things. Wrestling either finds you or you find wrestling. And I felt like wrestling found me. I needed a place of belonging. I needed something to do to occupy my time that would allow me to use my pursuits, my skills, talents, abilities, to really make meaning out of my life. And because I was going there seeking something that was bigger than sport, it was a very personal drive for me. I didn't mind that I wasn't winning. In fact, I actually loved very much that it was the most difficult and arduous sport that I could have participated in. At that time, I grew up in Seattle, Washington, and girls varsity wrestling was not official. So I wrestled on a boys team, and I wrestled at 157 pounds. And so if you can imagine, a 157-pound female, highly likely she has a very different body composition than a 157-pound male. I didn't care. I was such an angry kid. I had so much pent-up emotion that I was able to go in there and really redirect that emotion onto the wrestling mat. And whether I won or whether I lost, it didn't matter. It's that I had some place to be every day. I had something to hold me accountable to. And it was the life attributes that the sport taught me that I felt really paid dividends. So I didn't care that I won. I really didn't care that I lost either. It was that I kept showing up every day.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask, you mentioned that you wrestled on a boys team. How did wrestling with boys like affect the community that you had there? Like, did you have a good like team community that you wanted to be around, or was it hard?
I was really fortunate in that the wrestling team that I was on through junior high and high school, where for the most part I was the only girl, I was able to understand because I had two older brothers and I didn't necessarily have a really tight female group of friends, that I was able to fall in with the way that the high school adolescent boys behaved. And I understood that language. I understood that culture. And because of the way that I operated at that point in my life, again, just being, I was seeking and I was really angry and frustrated, and I didn't know how to express that with words, but I could express it in sport and I could express it in activity. That for me, it felt like I had joined a family. I was really conscientious about relationships and how to navigate them, and I was so put off by any idea or any concept that would be beyond just being teammates and sport partners, that it also made it so that there was a very clear boundary over how people approached me. And if I for some reason thought that there was a miscommunication happening, I would end up by punching someone in the face. I mean, it's not necessarily the way that you want to do it, but I was very cognizant of how do I own my space, my voice, my body, so that these guys that are my teammates, that I considered to be my brothers, understood the role that they played in my life and that this sport was a place for me to belong. And it was because of all of those factors that I was able to wake up every day and find that that was my community. And they didn't mind that I was mean, and they didn't mind that I was angry, because so many of us come from that background, and we understand that common language, that it is the community, it's the sisterhood, it's the brotherhood that brings us all together. And that is one of the unifying aspects of sport that I think everyone needs to have an opportunity to participate in.
That's awesome. I think it's awesome that you're able to like set such a clear boundary between like what you're doing like with your partners and what you're willing to put up with socially. I wanted to ask, do you notice like a significant difference between being on like an all girls team or on an all boys team? Do you think it affects the athletes any different, or affects retention maybe?
I think there are differences. If you're a girl on an all boys team, if you're a girl on a co-ed team, and if you're a girl on an all girls team. And I think it's starting to shift societally. When I was growing up, it was perhaps different. If you were a girl on the all boys team, it was looked at as one of two ways. One, you were a trailblazer, or two, she's out there wrestling because she wants to get a boyfriend. And for me, regardless of what narrative other people had, I knew why I was out there, which was because I wanted to be the best in sport. And wrestling is a no-cut sport. You can come from any race, religion, creed, background. You can weigh any weight you want to weigh, and there's a place for you to belong. That's what I identified with. So all the other narratives that were swirling around, I knew that they were false because I knew my why. And as long as I maintained that front and center, I was fine. I think if you're a girl that's on an all-girls team, it depends on how long you've been on that team, and it depends on how well you've been socially and culturally inculcated to belong and get along with other girls and women. It can be a challenge. For some people, it's very easy because you've had sisters and you've had moms and you understand that. You understand the dynamics. But for other people like myself, it was a bit of a challenge at first, because I went from wrestling all boys, where the narrative was, oh, if you beat a girl, it doesn't mean anything. But it would actually mean that, you're not as good. But if you beat a girl, you're supposed to have done that. So then I'm now wrestling girls, and I'm actually not winning right out of the gates. And I'm having to really reconcile the fact that girls aren't supposed to be as good. So what do? Girls aren't supposed to be as tough. So does that make me not tough? Girls aren't supposed to be this or that. Because I looked in the mirror and I didn't really see myself as a boy or a girl. I just saw myself as Sally who wanted to wrestle. So here I am now having to take in all of these narratives that other people have been telling me. And I have to start to sift through it and say, but who am I and where do I belong in this matrix of conversation? And it was something that I had to get used to. I had to get adjusted to. And at the end of the day, because I wasn't winning against girls, and I also wasn't winning against boys, I really had to say, it doesn't matter who you are standing across from me. You have two arms, two legs, one head, and this is a battle of warriors, and it's me versus you, and I don't care where you come from or where you're going to. It just has to be against you and I alone.
Yeah, that's an awesome take on it. I think separating like what you're doing socially and even just gender wise into just trying to accomplish something is really admirable. How did that affect your mental toughness? Or how did that affect you mentally when you were going into this new situation with women wrestling and not winning the way that you used to? Did that affect you mentally at all?
I had to do a lot of reconciliation in the sense that I went from not winning on boys teams, and I was always told that's okay because you're a girl and you're not supposed to win. Whether that's right or wrong, that was the narrative. And then I started wrestling against girls where you thought, hey, listen, you're supposed to be beating girls and I'm not. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm less than? Does that mean I'm not good? And as I worked through that, I realized that I could either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset would be that I am where I am. I'm not going to be able to grow from here. I'm not going to get any better. This is just what it is. And I could take that and I could digest it, and I probably would have done fine. But I was blessed with the gift of a growth mindset, which meant that I saw the opportunities and I saw the potential and I could see the what ifs. And I said, listen, I may not be the best now, but if I don't quit, who knows how good I can be. And that's when I started looking at all of my wrestling matches, regardless of who I wrestled. Boy, girl, male, female, world champion, junior varsity starter, and saying there is something that I can learn from every match, and every match is going to provide an experience, and it's up for me to determine what that experience I'm going to get out of that match is. So sure enough, I'm wrestling at the World Championships, and I'm beating women, and I'm losing to women, but I'm getting an experience every step of the way. I'm also, when we do training camps, we're having to wrestle against developing athletes who perhaps may not ever make the Team USA lineup and go compete at the world stage. But they were still scoring points on me, and I had to understand, what are they putting forward that is making it so that they're able to score points on me. And I was able to be the determiner in my own life and determine the meaning that I was going to make from each and every one of those matches, and filter it through my lens to say it's either going to help me improve or I'm going to stagnate, stay here, and I will not grow. And I chose the growth mindset every time.
Yeah, I think that does a lot for your confidence and to move forward. I wanted to know, or I wanted to ask, I found in like a previous interview that you said that you joined the Army after like disappointment with the Olympics. I wanted to ask if you think that making such a dramatic change in your life, like switching away from wrestling so completely, well, not so completely, but so dramatically, helped you like move on and move forward.
It's my perspective that your life is a book, and each book has a different chapter, and it's not going to be the chapters that's going to define you and your legacy. It's going to be the entirety of that book. And for me, wrestling was a very significant chapter, but I didn't want that to be the only thing that defined me. So when I had the opportunity and I made the decision to move forward and join the military, as a soldier in the special operations world, I looked forward to that because I knew that when I moved through life, I didn't want to just move laterally. I wanted to advance. I wanted to progress. And that was an opportunity that I was given because I was born here in the United States. I'm a patriot. I love the Constitution. I love defending things, freedom, people, our value system. And I looked at it as an aspirational move to be able to, again, prove who I am. I did it because I had a calling to do it, and it made me feel very, very good. And it's turned out to be a really beautiful chapter in the book of Sally, and it's gone on from there. So I went from being a Team USA member, wrestling, to being in the military, special operations, to starting a company, to continuing to venture out into the world. And what I think is really amazing about being an American is that the world is full of possibilities, and nothing is going to define us except for our minds and what we're capable of and what we can become. And so do I think that it was an arduous risk? I mean, somewhat, because no one saw it happening. But I also know that the medals that we wear around our neck don't ever define us. They help us realize the potential of what we can do when we take these courageous leaps in life, and we can continue to grow every step of the way into every chapter that we want to write.
Yeah. Do you think, because I did some research on your time in the military and I found that you were a 37 Fox. That's PSYOPs, right?
Yeah, correct.
Do you think that job in the military helped you in formulating your plan and your ideas in starting your company and reaching people?
It did. It did, because everything that I do, whether I like it or not, I'm going to get an experience from that. And I'm going to take that experience, and it's going to make me swifter, faster, higher, stronger. I'm going to learn something. So when I joined the military, 37 Fox, I looked at that and said, what is the experience? And what am I going to get out of it? It was when I was on patrol in Afghanistan, and I was towards the front, and I had my female interpreter, and one of the soldiers that I was walking next to said, wow, would you look at that? And I looked over to my left, and I didn't notice anything particular. And he said, that's a gaggle of little Afghan girls. And listen, you would have looked at them just like I did. They were just little girls out playing on the street, wearing t-shirts and shorts, and their hair was crazy, and they had dirt on their face, and their knees were skinned up. They had sticks. They were playing stickball, and they were out having the most fun. So when I looked over and saw them, I smiled, and I looked over at my compatriot and said, I think this is the first time they've ever seen a woman in a leadership position. So they came rushing over to us, and I took my thumb to their thumb and I did a little high five to all of them. And they started following us around, and really it made me realize that there's so many different ways that we can serve ourselves, serve our communities. And when I got redeployed back from Afghanistan, I got recruited to wrestle for the Army's World Class Athlete Program. I was sitting in the sauna and I thought, that time that I was in Afghanistan and I got to interface with those young Afghan girls, it was powerful to me because I wanted to be a change agent for good. And it was really the seed of concept that bloomed Wrestle Like a Girl, recognizing that I didn't have to be in Afghanistan to be a change agent. I was able to be here in the United States, figuring out how to blend entrepreneurship with drive and grit and passion with the things that I love, which is wrestling. And Rumi, there's a poet that says, bloom where you're planted. I was planted in the sport of wrestling. And if it wasn't for my time in a war zone where I got to interface with these girls, Wrestle Like a Girl may not have existed.
Yeah. Do you think, when did you get out of the military eventually?
I officially transitioned out October 2018.
Did you make that decision like with it in mind of like switching over to starting this business? Like, did you decide to get out because you were going to start this business?
Not necessarily. What I've come to understand is that being an elite athlete and being in the military, those two roles, whether you're an elite athlete or not, so I should just say if you're an athlete or you're in the military, at a certain point in time, whether you want it or not, there's going to be an ending. And I've seen so many of my peers not have an understanding of what the next start of their chapter is going to be. And there's that gray space that we can somewhat fall into that makes us question, who are we? Am I my uniform? And like, what defines me as a person? So I wanted to make sure that I had something lined up that I was going to be passionate about, because I know absolute certainty no one's going to work harder than me. So I looked at it and said, I need to build something that will be a bridge between where I'm at and where I want to go to, and I'll be the driver of what it looks like. And I did just that. I took a courageous leap, going from an athlete and service member on a Sunday to an entrepreneur on a Monday. But I was fortunate because I had something that was meaningful, that has a purpose for me, that I was able to drive forward and help me continue on with my life.
How do you feel with how far women's wrestling has come since just that point? I mean, just this year it got sanctioned as a championship sport in colleges. So it's come so far since 2018 when you got out of the military. And how do you feel about that?
So proof of concept. So just like a clarification on my part, I stopped wrestling for the WCAP October 2016, and then I had to go on leave, and then I also retired completely out of athletics in the military officially 2016. So the Rio Olympics was really the last big push, and then I had 2 years of IRR, inactive ready reserve, so I wasn't completely out. So it was actually 2016 that I pushed forward to establish Wrestle Like a Girl along with my co-founder Amy Zernicholas. And I remember standing at our very first gala. It was at the Fine Arts Museum in Colorado Springs. And I wrote my remarks that I was going to be delivering as the keynote. And my voice was shaking and my hands were sweating. And I said, in the next 20 years, I want to see every state in the union recognize girls high school wrestling as an official sport, and I want to see the NCAA recognize women's wrestling as an official championship sport. I was so nervous saying that audacious, bold, and visionary goal to an audience of influencers within the wrestling community that my voice was shaking, and I was thinking they're all going to know that I'm absolutely crazy. And I've come to realize, man, oh man, I am crazy, but it was all for good, because we've accomplished those goals in less than 10 years. And it's amazing what can happen when you have one courageous person that wants to that sees a vision, that drives towards it, is able to bring people together, get alignment, get everyone to start working together, and those goals are able to come to fruition. So now you have 47 states in the union that recognize girls high school wrestling as an official sport. You have NCAA championship status. There's over 75,000 girls that are wrestling at the high school level in the United States. We have over 3,000 girls that are wrestling in college, and we're slightly shy of just 200 college programs. And if you would have said 10 years ago, where were we going to be? There's many people that may not have had that vision, but I understood the power of the athlete voice. I strongly believe that the voice of the affected athlete is one of the most powerful on the planet. And when and when the athlete can understand the laws as they were created, that were there to benefit and support them, such as Title IX, that no person shall be denied the benefits of or access to financial assistance that goes to a school or an institution based on sex, then we were able to realize that there's things that we can do. We're not powerless. We do have a voice. We can move mountains when we all work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all the questions that I had like lined up for you today, but I really appreciated talking. I think I learned a lot from this conversation.
Brooke, I actually have questions for you.
Okay, awesome.
Brooke, what was your drive and motivation to take a leadership position within your wrestling team?
I think that after coming into wrestling, so I kind of joined wrestling on a whim. I also came over from volleyball, which was a cut sport, and I wasn't very good at it, and over into wrestling at a military school. Like, so I was on a military base, and there weren't a lot of girls on that team, and then the girls that were on the team transferred out so quickly that we didn't really have time to form a relationship with each other. And so the the upperclassmen that I had at that school focused very heavily on creating like a bond and a relationship, and that it was the job of the upperclassmen to do that for the younger people. So I've just kind of carried that on to my new school now that I've transferred out.
Thank you. I've had conversations with diplomats, and they would say, if you want to know about America, if you want to understand America, you have to understand baseball. I think that actually the sport that defines America is wrestling. What do you think about girls wrestling and how it ties into America's values? Freedom, democracy, human rights. Like, how do you see the strength of wrestling playing into how we are going to be driving forward as a nation?
I think that saying that wrestling embodies American values is absolutely true. Like the way that anybody can really find a way to excel in it, like no matter where you came from, um, I think is really accurate. And to say that is to also say that obviously it embodies those values and instills like those characteristics into those athletes and those individuals. So anybody coming out of wrestling and into like the American social system or political system, believing that they can rise if they can rise and do well if they're committed and work hard, is really accurate. I think it's a really good take, and I wish more people thought that they could excel in anything if they just tried hard.
Do you think that there's parallels between wrestling as a female wrestler, or really just as a wrestler? Do you think there's parallels between wrestling and the American dream? And if so, what do you think they are?
Mm. The American dream, like freedom and
Like the idea that we can be anything that we want to be in this world if you work hard enough.
yeah. I think yeah, I think that there's absolutely parallels between wrestling and the American dream, especially not especially, but those may be especially embodied by a female wrestler who has to overcome maybe some of the stigmatism coming into the sport and moving up and as they start to do better. Um so I think absolutely there's some embodiment of that American dream within wrestling. And then like I said, when you move out of wrestling and then you have that ideal that you can excel as long as you work hard enough, I think it does wonderful things for a community and for those individuals moving out into adulthood.
There's there's a landmark study from Ernst and Young. 94% of women who have played sports now sit in C-suite positions. CEO, chief financial officer, chief operations officer, chief operations officer. What do you think the benefits of playing sport and leadership are?
I think that anybody who plays sports, especially an individual sport like gymnastics or wrestling or track, where you're putting yourself out to be watched and to fail or to succeed, anybody who has the grit and the determination to just go out there and do their best when people are watching you, like you are like you're prepared to fail every time you walk on the mat. Like, not prepared to fail. You shouldn't be prepared to fail when you walk on the mat. But like, it's a distinct possibility every time you step on the mat to wrestle that you're gonna win or that you're gonna lose. Like, you're either gonna win and you're gonna feel proud of yourself in front of all these people that are here, or you're gonna lose. You're gonna have to deal with the fact that you tried your hardest, but you couldn't just quite get there that day. And I think having experience with handling loss like that and being able to move on from that is really important in functioning as an adult, like, and taking risks to achieve great things, like being a company owner or putting yourself in a position of political power.
I believe that wrestling is the most democratic sport on the planet. It's about fairness, opportunity, and work ethic. How do you think that that plays into the American dream and the idea of meritocracy, which is you get what you earn? How do you think wrestling, and specifically you in that sport, how do you think you blend into that overall picture?
I think the idea that you get what you learn within wrestling or within anything really is, I mean, it's the best concept that you could truly believe in. Like, I don't think that if you don't I don't think that if you don't work something for or work for something, that you should get something. Like, if you're working hard enough that you're achieving things in wrestling, then you deserve that success. Like, you have gotten yourself there. And that's the same in everyday society. If you've worked hard enough to achieve something and you've then gotten there, you deserve it. And that's not to say that just because you're working hard, you deserve to accomplish things or achieve things. But if you are working hard and you are accomplishing these things, then clearly you're doing something right, and you're you're putting in the effort to get there.
Okay, thank you. And one last question. What are going to be your top three takeaways from wrestling after you transition out of high school and you move on with your life? What are three things that you're going to take from the sport of wrestling that wrestling has gifted you that you're going to put in your pocket, and when times get hard, you're going to be able to reach into your pocket and feel those magical three gifts? What are those three gifts going to be?
I think first of all, it'll be the ability to step outside myself and sort of see what's going on around me, like in the bigger picture, where I am in life, and the people that I have supporting me, because wrestling is hard. So, like, a lot of times I have gotten so caught up in what's going on in that moment or with that one match or that one practice or that one move that I can't figure out, that I get so frustrated and so flustered, so upset, that I have to be able to step outside myself and see where I am and who supports me, and the fact that I have so much life ahead of me. So why let myself get so upset over this one thing when I have so much more to focus on? And then also, my second thing I think would be the community, the ability to kind of just this is sort of, so I'm a military child, so this is also sort of like a military child thing, but the ability to be able to grow where I'm planted, like to be put with a group of people and form relationships and bonds with those people that I feel that I can rely on them, because obviously, like, being on a wrestling team, you make friends and you have a community, and like, those people are there for you. And the ability to put yourself with a team, whether that be wrestling or just people that you surround yourself with, the ability to make that bond with them, I think is so important. And like, it changes people's lives. And then third would be just the grit and determination to never give up, like that what we talked about, where you get what you earn. So if you're going to work hard enough, if you're going to work harder than everyone else, then you're going to get what you want, but you have to be willing to put in that work to get there.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Brooke. This was an absolute pleasure and a delight to come on the podcast and talk with you and have you talk and engage with me. I wish you the most success in the future, and I know that you'll succeed if you continue to bring that same effort and put it into everything that you do.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful for you coming on here and talking to me, and being willing to take the time out of your day and help this program.
Yeah, certainly.